India's ambitious cheetah reintroduction project was meant only to bring the fastest land animal back to the wild after decades of extinction in the country. After almost 4 years since the launch of the Kuno project, India has over 49 cheetahs, out of which 32 are born in India. The government hails the birth of every litter and deems it as a success of the project. But could the survival of African cheetahs in India and the birth of cubs mean the project is a success? More than half of India's cheetahs remain confined within fenced enclosures nearly 4 years into the project that was meant to restore wild populations. The biggest problem may not be cheetahs themselves, but whether India has enough space for truly wild cheetahs at all.
So when we talk about free-ranging wild cheetahs in unfenced circumstances, the species itself is quite an evolutionary wonder in that they have spectacularly large home range sizes relative to its body size.
Cheetahs are unlike most other cats. Even in the wildest parts of Africa, where prey is abundant, cheetahs roam across massive landscapes. Unlike tigers or lions, whose territory shrink when prey is easily available, cheetahs continue to maintain extremely large home ranges.
And in the best of circumstances, in unfenced reserves, even in areas with very high prey densities where I have worked in Kenya, they at the maximum reach density of about 1 per 100 square kilometers. This is the first thing to keep in mind whenever we talk about an attempt like a reintroduction. When we talk about any population, surviving population, all right, which means they can independently live, hunt, breed, and finally also ensure they maintain the genetics themselves such that they will not get into inbreeding issues.
A research paper that studied the cheetah population in the Masai Mara in Kenya, Africa, used photographs and advanced tracking models to estimate how many cheetahs live there and how they move. Researchers estimated there are about 1.28 to 1.34 adult cheetahs per 100 square kilometers in Masai Mara.
So far, even within Africa, there has never been a successful reintroduction project of cheetahs in an unfenced circumstance. So there have been successes or reported successes within fenced, but in an unfenced reserve, they've still not worked. And one of the huge limitation is even if cubs are born, they are not making it to adulthood.
Kuno National Park is just 748 square kilometers, and at the time of reintroduction, 20 cheetahs were released there. Right now, it has over 49 cheetahs. That's a severe mismatch as the park could support only around 7 wild cheetahs at best. India already had a problem with the lack of habitat for these cheetahs, but the project went ahead anyway. So to make it work in India, compromises were made.
This is certainly not going to be, you're certainly not going to be giving cheetahs all the freedom they need, right? Because we don't have the space. So what will happen if you release them in unfenced reserves? They will move out, right? And we have seen ample evidences of that happening. And that's what cheetahs will do. So that's going to be the natural behavior of cheetahs. They will be moving into farms and human habitations. And that cannot be avoided at all in some sense, because cheetahs are going to do what cheetahs always do. They will not change a lot of their evolutionary spatial ecology, concepts of spatial ecology, just to make it work here.
Studies have found that male cheetahs move more faster than females. The 2016 study points that male cheetahs have traveled about 9.5 kilometers on average and females about 5.5 kilometers. This could be because females with cubs restrict their movements and stay closer to the prey-rich areas, and males patrol territories more actively. Lack of habitat could explain why cheetahs have ventured out of the fenced areas, a totally normal behavior for the big cat. But that has created another problem for cheetahs. There have been indiscriminate use of tranquilizers on the cheetahs, which can be fatal for them in the long run. As per the 2024 inspection report by Chief Wildlife Warden V.N. Ambade, till 2024, the cheetahs at Kuno were tranquilized 110 times. All of this just to keep them fenced. In March 2026, it was announced that the Virangana Durgavati Tiger Reserve will become a home for cheetahs in coming months. Gandhi Sagar Sanctuary near the Rajasthan border was already marked for fencing the cheetahs.
You mentioned that they have identified other areas in other reserves and national parks. So, will that, you think, help?
From African cheetah's point of view, what is the gain in bringing a few cheetahs from fenced reserves there and putting them into fenced reserves here when there is so much habitat left in Africa? Huge swathes of places where they are, even if they are under threat, there's a lot of habitat still left. We are not in a position right now. There is not enough space for having a free ranging, genetically viable, self-sustaining cheetah, wild cheetah population, right? So they have to be within fenced circumstances. Now your question is, will it help? Help what is the question? Are these the sort of cheetahs we are even thinking of? For example, cheetahs being in zoos in India has never been new. Well, if this is going to be the permanent arrangement, I'm not saying the fences will not come down in future, but if the whole idea is to just keep them within fences, then the question is, what is this project about?
And this raises a larger question. If African countries still have vast cheetah habitats, does moving into smaller fenced reserves in India actually help the species globally?
And if you change the definition of what you're looking for, even these, if you call even these as successes, breeding cubs within a completely controlled environment where food is provided, where they're completely left off other predators, they are completely not in their natural circumstances, and if cubs are born here, do you call that a success? Now that doesn't make this project successful either, because those attempts have been done in many places around the world. So nothing makes this, in that context, historic, because now suddenly if that becomes the yardstick, that has been done in several places. Nothing unique to India.
The original estimates about how many cheetahs Indian reserves could support were flawed. In 2009, then Union Minister Jairam Ramesh had officially launched a proposal to reintroduce cheetahs in India. In 2011, a blueprint was created, rupees 50 crore were sanctioned, and the plan was to reintroduce around 60 to 70 cheetahs.
The ecology is saying that you can't have more than 6 or 7, right? And that said 60 to 70. And then it got vastly reduced in the new action plan to 21, which is also excessive. And the problem here is that the very assessment of cheetah densities and population size in Namibia, which was what this whole project was based on, was completely flawed. So the science in Namibia was flawed. Now, when you take that flawed example and translate it here, it just becomes worse. Right? So all those flaws carried on to here.
The question with the project is not the intent and the idea to restore something India had lost. But could the species be conserved without bringing it to an ecosystem that isn't sufficient?
So the very simple question is, if we have so much money to do this is just from the perspective of cheetah conservation and our investments. I'm not worried about whose money, whether it's Indian government's money or whether it's a private investor. That's least of the concerns. If there is so much money available to save cheetahs, the much better thing to do is to directly fund projects in Africa.
Will cheetahs survive in India in the long run is not the question. What matters is India prepared to create vast, connected landscapes that cheetahs need?
The last one that I would like to ask you is 10 years from now, how do you think Project Cheetah will be remembered?
So you want me to make a prediction?
If you would like to.
10 years, if it's going the way it currently is, it probably is not going to be remembered in the way we would like it to be remembered. Because right now, what we are doing is we're getting into this practice of putting fences, right? At least that's there in the plan. The really difficult part of conservation is to ensure there is good quality habitat for wildlife and there is scope for expanding that habitat naturally and increasing connectivity and increasing area for wildlife. That should be the goal. Now, when we get into this habit of putting fences, right, you are actually reversing the whole approach. Now you're saying only this area for you, wildlife. Do what you can within that. And we will start getting, and increasingly we are going to move into a direction of very, very active management rather than leaving things natural.
Without the space, the project risks becoming less about restoring wilderness and more about managing animals inside fences.